Hello and welcome to Educator.com's AP Studio Art 2D Design Portfolio Curriculum. Today we're going to be talking about the quality section of your portfolio. So make sure that you have already watched and hopefully completed all of the other lessons before this lesson. This is second to last and definitely something that you're going to do once you've completed everything else. So let's jump right in. So what is the quality section? So at the very beginning of this curriculum, we talked about the three different parts of the portfolio. We talked about the breadth section, the concentration, and now we're going to talk about the quality section. And I mentioned earlier that the quality section is actually 5 actual pieces of images, or your 5 best images that come from either your breadth section or your concentration, and it can be all from one or a combination of the both. It doesn't matter, just as long as it's your very, very best work. So according to College Board, they define it as your 5 works that demonstrate mastery of design and that are apparent in the composition, concept, and execution of the work. So for the 5 quality pieces, these are physical photos that you are going to print out, mat, and turn in. We're going to talk about how to do all of that today. But then also, they're your best pictures. They're the pictures that are the strongest in your concept, which means your idea, where you started with this idea, you carried it out, you edited it in the same mood or feel as that idea, and you have a beautiful finished product. All right, so the very, very best of your work, the best of your 24 pieces. So again, they are physical prints of your 5 best pieces. So these are photos that you are literally going to have printed out. Most of you will probably not have a darkroom at home. So most likely these are photographs that you're going to send in to some sort of printing space. So probably somewhere like Walmart or Costco or something like that. But they're your 5 best pieces from your breadth section, your concentration, or a combination of the both. So I like to say that repeatedly because sometimes people think that you only get to use, 5 additional photos that you haven't turned in for anything else. It's not true. This is the only time when you can turn in a repeat photo. All right. And you should turn in a repeat photo. So from your 12 breadth and your 12 concentration, figure out what you think are your best 5, and those will become your quality pieces. So it is the best representation of who you are as an artist photographer. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like the coolest looking images. They have to be your best pieces from across the board. Okay, so the requirements for the quality section. First of all, you need to start by printing your pieces. So places like Costco or Sam's Club or a professional photography print shop work well. Places like Rite Aid and Target and some places like that will do it, but they have a limited amount of sizes that you can do. So be intentional. Maybe do a little bit of research on the places that will print photography for you. And also have a sample printed there before you commit to it. Make sure that the quality, the look of the photo, the color, the toning is exactly what you were expecting when you made it on the computer and that it's matching up. There are ways to do what's called color profiling with your screen. And then the vendor that you choose for printing. I know for sure Costco has color profiling, color matching software that you can use. I believe it's downloadable on their website, but you're welcome to do a little YouTube on that. Figure out how you can make sure that the look of the screen that you're using and the look of the printed product are exactly the same. Otherwise, you're going to have some frustration. So most of the time I use an Apple computer and I have mine color profiled for Costco and they always do a perfect job. I just make sure not to check I always check the box that says do not edit my pictures. Some of the studios where you'll send your photos to be printed, they're going to try to add color toning to make your pictures look more vibrant, but you've already done that in Photoshop, so you don't need to do that. So make sure if they want to naturally edit your pictures, you tell them no. All right, but you're going to definitely have to print your photos out. The second thing is that your images, when you're printing them, they need to be substantial when printed. So an 8x10 or larger, but then there is a requirement for the College Board that we can't go too big. So an 8x10 is as small as I would recommend that you do. I would not recommend a 5x7. I would not recommend a 4x6, 3x5. Anything smaller than an 8x10 is not big enough. We definitely need a more substantial, bigger picture. And you'll find that a lot of your fine art photographs are going to look much more grand when they're printed a little bit larger. So if you have the ability to print all of your photos at, for example, an 11x14, that might be a really nice size for you. All right. So right here, I mentioned 8x10 or larger. Okay, but no larger than 13 by 19. So after you mat your photos, if they're bigger than 13 by 19, the mat is going to be too big for the actual physical portfolio container that we ship everything off to the AP Central for. So it's important to make sure that it's not larger than 13 by 19 after matting. All right, very, very important. So the maximum portfolio size is 18 by 24, which I know this is a lot of numbers, but you're also going to have access to AP Central's website. They give you all of this information on their website, and they kind of mention to you, make sure your size requirements fit into the portfolio. And if your photo does not fit in, then it will be rejected when it goes into scoring. So we don't want that to happen after you've worked so hard. So really important to make sure you have those size requirements correct. All right, so the images have to be matted, and they should be, it's recommended that they're flapped. So I'm going to show you what I have always done with all of my students' work and kind of a little bit of how to do that in this lesson. All right, so a couple of notes to you. There's a couple of fancy framing stores that will cut some custom mats for custom sizes if you don't have a professional mat cutter at home, which most people don't. So places like Aaron Brothers, Michael's, some sort of craft store, any kind of framing shop that you know about in your area will very likely cut custom mats for you. So let's pretend that you have a photograph. Let's say you did a panoramic picture like one of those Peter Lick images, and it's really, really long and really short, right? It's really long and short. So you need a custom mat that's only 4 inches by like 12 inches wide, all right? They don't sell pre-cut mats that are in that kind of custom size, so you would have to have that custom cut for you. So taking it into a studio and place like that is totally worth your time in making sure that everything is perfect, but I will mention to you that it does get really expensive, so be careful. Make sure you tell them you're a student. Make sure that you mention it's for your art portfolio for college and this and that, and hopefully they'll give you a little bit of a discount, we'll hope, or take in one of those coupons. Sometimes those are a good idea. All right, so if you print your images in a standard size, so a lot of people sell pre-cut mats. If you print them in a standard size, it's easy to find pre-cut mats for those typical sizes at a lot of art supply stores or online if you search on Amazon, places like that. So what it looks like is just a matted frame that has a hole in it with a beveled edge, which means it kind of has a slope to it. All right, so if you find those that are pre-cut for an 8 by 10, for an 11 by 14, maybe start by looking for your mats first, gather all of your mats together, and then print your pictures because you know what size the mats are, and then it makes it a little bit easier for you. All right, but standard size prints equals standard size mats, so you don't have a lot of customization, which will save you some money as you start to put everything together. All right, so typical ready mats can also be bought online. So these really simple mats that are just like a basic, really super basic white or black or whatever can be found online. They can be bought online on bulk sometimes. I know Dick Blick sells them. I don't know if you can get them in smaller quantities, but there's lots of art supply stores, Utrecht and art supply warehouse type of places that have all sorts of different options for you. Just go down to your local art shop and ask them, hey, I need to buy some mats that are pre-cut. Do you have any advice? So framing shops and art stores are going to be very resourceful for you for your matting. All right, the last thing is that flapping is done with newspaper or newsprint paper. I'm not talking about actual newspaper. I'm not talking about the stuff that comes to your door that has printing all over it. I'm talking about the paper itself. And newsprint is actually sold in big, kind of like big pads of paper, and they're really, really big pieces of paper, but they're really thin, and it's pretty inexpensive. You can get about 100 sheets of newsprint for like $10. So they're really big pieces of paper that you then flap over your art, and it protects the surface of your photograph so that as it's sent into the College Board and they're hitting each other, then it doesn't scratch up all your pictures and you don't have any problems with people thinking that you had a low quality photograph because everything's scratched. So it just protects your picture. So I highly, highly recommend it. It is not required from the College Board. You will not find any information on College Board's website about flapping other than that it's allowed. So I'm going to show you here to make sure that your pictures are protected so that when they arrive at the College Board and they open them up, they look beautiful and they look perfect and as good as you created them.